This next game is an interesting one. Vishnu has been on the show many times, and in this game he's playing SayChess, who is on Twitter a lot, as Vishnu is, and they had a match, a correspondence match, which means I think they had like 3 days to make a move. A correspondence match in the London, and this is one of the games of that match. And so, you know, it's a little. I've never done. I don't think I've ever done commentary on a correspondence game, and so I'm gonna, especially in the opening, I'm gonna bypass most of the questions and just talk about a couple key positions that I just had an intuitive reaction to, because I'm sure both players spend a lot of time doing analysis on this game. One thing that these London people are doing is they're violating a basic rule of they're playing bishops before knights. My mama said knights before bishops, and I think after c5, I already think I don't see any troubles for black. Whereas, and this, by the way, this c5 thing is Vishnu's new toy against the London players, and I think Sam Shanklin did a video on it. There's a variety of ways to play against the London. And all I have on the opening that might be worthwhile is on knight f3, c5. c3 at least asks some important questions to black. We are threatening dc followed by b4. So you can choose to play e6 to lock your bishop in, or you can gambit a pawn and let me play dc, or you go takes, and now we have our old friend, the exchange Slav, who's the sister position of the London. Okay, as I said, I don't want to spend too much time on the opening. These guys were thinking long thoughts. Black is okay. c4 is a little controversial, but black was okay coming out of the opening. Now, b5, a little bit of a madman's move, right? Normal people would play something like knight f6. And so let's talk about this b5 a second. That maybe, you know, it might be some kind of theoretical thing from the Shanklin video or something. The idea, if we want to be charitable to it, is to get an initiative against the queen side, and you can imagine maybe BC, bishop a3, and some kind of nastiness with bishop b2, for example. And maybe that's what's motivating white's next move, which I find a little bit strange. a4, which, right, I don't get, and the only advantage of forcing b4, which I thought was white's intention, is to take away that a3 square. Now, clearly, we're going to see white had more ideas than that, but that's the only main advantage I saw from it. Two sensible plans that white could have done. You could play knight h4. You could play bishop e2. Both those seem reasonable to me. Let's look what happened. Clearly some crazy tactics going on, and very interesting position now develops. And let's pause here for a moment. All normal moves so far. Vishnu, that was the furthest from normal I've ever seen in my life. If that's normal, I'm in big trouble, because then I'm not normal. Okay. Vishnu writes, I was happy with the bishop pair. The double pawns didn't bother me too much. I thought the space I had in the bishop pair compensated for the structure. Now, the last part about it, I think I agree. And it gets really interesting real fast. Let's presume that castles can't be wrong. And, well, black now has to prove something, because he's down in time and his king is loose. Now, Vishnu's intuition here is definitely different than mine. His intuition is to play the maddening h5 and go for it somehow on the king side in a way that's, h5 is it's not clear yet that that's the move we need to do. But already in his mind with h5, Vishnu's clearly aiming for some kind of business with castles long, right? Castles long seems insane to me, though. It felt way too loose, and I don't. These guys, when they do this correspondence thing, I don't know what it means in terms of whether I assume they're not using engines or anything, but I assume they're thinking about it pretty long. And I just want to say, from my perspective, the king wants to be on g7. And yes, you have compensation because of the bishops. Now, you have to be a little careful, I think, because if, say, king f8 now, then you're going to have to worry about this, like, tricks, like knight c4 is potentially on the table. Even here, he's not really, if you move the rook, you can meet bishop d5 with bishop h2. But in any case, those are some of the things why maybe you wouldn't want to do it. But to me, it seems insane to castle long. And Vishnu doesn't write anything about it. He concluded that rook g8 was insane. And let's go through that variation here, because this is an interesting, this is one of the few positions in this game I thought was kind of like instructive or interesting. And maybe I'm just wrong. It's just my opinion. So the drama with rook g8 is then if you play king f8, well, then it's not clear that this bishop wants to move yet, and it's not clear that the king wants to go to g7 because the rook's in the way. And I think if black wants to claim that he's better here, there needs to be more of a long-term sensibility of what he said, which was the bishops are better. So like king f8, maybe the rook goes to b8. You could put the rook on b8 or d8 now too. But I think that, I think the advantage is long-term. I want to stress that rather than right away. Because black needs to first catch up in development. So h5 seems controversial. Very controversial. And white in here loses the thread. But I definitely feel that white is better here. And, well, let's say bishop f3 isn't wrong. He has other moves, honestly. But let's say that isn't wrong. Bishop c7. And the simple moves, I guess, here are like knight f1. You could have done this before, too, and then play b3 next and start the party. And is black going to survive? I kind of doubt it. And like I said, you could, if you wanted to, you could play knight f1 first. And that might even be better because b3's still coming. And, well, I just don't believe... How are we getting at that white king soon enough? It's hard to see. And as is famously said, with a knight on f1, you're not going to get mated, right? Yeah, looks terrible. Looks absolutely terrible after a b3 is coming. Okay, so bishop f3, and then that seemed really weird. C takes b4. Queen d6. Knight f1. And let's read what Vishnu writes. At this point, I felt I no longer had a good position. So one thing that's interesting is clearly Vishnu felt before that his position was fantastic. When, I don't know, especially after castles long, I felt before it was, I don't know, dynamically equal or something like that. And after castles long, I'm like, I don't know, buddy. I don't know. So anyway, we all have prejudices and they carry over, and then you try to justify your position, right? So I have no attack to speak of and a loose structure. And if white manages to bring out his rook in heavy pieces, my king is vulnerable. Amen. Right? And I don't actually know where I went wrong so far. However, this suggests to me that the whole plan of castles was misguided. Yeah. Now, and you should have gone castles short on move 16. That's probably even better than my weird king f8 move. But yeah, it's a similar thing, honestly. So, correct. Now, things still are very weird. Bishop d3. the part that I don't get is, no, maybe I do get it. I don't know. But anyways, part of me just wants to take the b4 pawn. I don't know. It's going to get funky, and white really loses his mind here. He should just play bishop e2, as Vishnu notes. And this was kind of stunning to me that white allowed this. And now, intuitively, I'm going to say it has to be lost, because we've got bishops of opposite color. And the main feature of the bishops of opposite color, right, as I've said on this show 1,000 times, is that the person with the initiative has the extreme advantage because they are up a piece on the dark squares, right? And very difficult for white to for this to work out. And like king e2, that's already clearly a sign that things has gone wrong. And a bad piece of news for white. Maybe this was, I was going to say maybe g3 was his intention, but, you know, even then, even if we don't have bishop takes g3, there's like h4 and other nastiness. So, this seems totally lost. Check to the miserable king. And, I don't know, this has got to be lost. I'm gonna guess h5, h4, well, don't quote me on that one. Actually, you could still do it because there's no on h4. There's no rook e1 because then we got to check on e8. As the way Vishnu does, it's probably okay. Yeah, but okay. Things go around. They dance around. It's a huge practical advantage for black. But things have gotten messier than our friend Vishnu would have liked. c5 felt completely wrong. Right, it feels with the move c5 that white feels that he's got loads of time in the position. And of course, if he had a lot of time, then c5 would be like this great thing where you're building it up. But I think Vishnu's right. It's a little bit too much, and there's going to have to be some other attempt to open the position and to really get the rook involved. Okay, let's check it out. Beautiful chess. It's all over. It's all over. Okay, great. So, I hope that was helpful. I feel like in that game, I was mostly concentrating on one position that I felt I kind of sort of understood. I wasn't sure I understood a lot of the rest of it, though.